to share a story of a teenage boy who quite didn't have a story of a typical teenage boy. Let me start off with a boy who had dreams that seemed out of reach, aspirations that felt too big for his family. But what mattered wasn't where he started, but where he dared to go. This boy was finding himself in the corridors of the Defense Research and Development Organization, one of the most prestigious research institutions that the nation has, working with brilliant scientists, contributing to projects that would shape nation's future. The story didn't end there. He continued to join a revolutionary startup, diving headfirst into the world of innovation and entrepreneurship. And here's the kicker, he did it all before 19. And I am proud to present the boy is me. It's this story that I'm going to tell you in the next few minutes. I'm sure I have got some other stories that inspire you. It was a very normal Friday afternoon, very similar to this. It was at our classroom, which was a full-blown circus in school uniform. Paper planes were soaring through the room with questionable aim. There was one guy in the back whose life ambition back then was only to balance a pen in every lecture. It's chaos of symphony. Amongst this chaos, a silence occurred. Little did I know that was a silence that would change my life forever. It was a circular that a clerk brought into the class. Sure enough, all of us hoped it was a surprise holiday. After all, we even deserved a break in the chaos. The circular read, it's a science expo. 1 month we had to develop a concept and present it. I was intrigued by it. A 13-year-old who's pretty much loved anything that moved, that clicked, that made sound. Science Expo was the perfect ground for me to do something that just makes me curious and fell in love with physics again. It was my uncle's lecture close to a month ago around the same time that helped me understand the laws of electromagnetic induction. Electromagnetic induction was something close to my heart because back then that is the only thing that I knew, and that had almost everything that I loved. It moved, it clicked, and it glowed a light when we crank a hand cranky machine. It's a hand cranked machine that I developed for the Science Expo. Sure enough, I was determined to win. I was more than sure that this is a working model that would give me a prize. It's a 13-year-old mindset. I can understand it's very common for me, to my thinking now, to tell that results won't matter and it's the process that you follow. But hey, I was 13 and I was determined to win the prize. And it all started with the aim of winning prize. It's a hand-cranked machine that I have developed, which when rotated a handle, lights up a bulb. Perfect. That was the one that I've developed in the 1 month. It was relentless nights throughout the months that I've put in to create the project, and the demo day arrives. It was just, I was minutes away from presenting my hand-cranked machine that I've developed to the judges, and sure enough I did. It glowed. The bulb glowed the moment I cranked the handle. My friends were in awe. It just fueled my determination to win again. And the results, they come. I was devastated. Not even in the top 10, not even in the notable mentions. This was quite heartbreaking for a 13-year-old. And sure, it's just failure faded away in the days as the days passed. But what the science fair gave me was surely the material that I could make 2 more generators from. Sure enough, after a few days, I've ended up making 1 more generator, but this time slightly differently, which was amount to a ceiling fan, which typically just replaces your ceiling fan to be a small-scale generator that you can use in emergency situations to light a bulb. This was great. I was quite happy with how it was going. It was my neighbor who have suggested me a place called T-Hub. I don't know what T-Hub is. After months of research, days of research, I found out that it's a government incubator which just helps you to walk in with a product, walk in with an idea and walk out with a product. Sure enough, it felt like the perfect thing that I need to do. But my journey going through T-Hub was anything but normal. Sure enough, the ideas were accepted, but not for a 13, 14-year-old whose brain is filled with ideas and eyes wide open and a plan that was clueless. I have made sure I was determined to get in just because of the fact that I had the hope that someone in T-Hub would help me build something that is more useful than what I already have. It was the best decision of my life. I had made sure to use few clueless strategies. One old, very good strategy that always works is just show up. I felt like I should just show up to the building, walk into the reception, ask few questions, and figure out the rest of the stuff later. It indeed became the most important decisions that I've took in my life so far, which helped me to T-Hub and work with entrepreneurs and innovators who are at least twice my age. All my evenings post-schools were lectures from these founders who felt like a quirky 14-year-old kid showed up near my desk. Let me just take a 5-minute break and answer this guy's questions. For me, they were life lessons. Real life case studies of problems that we wanted to solve were tea discussions for these founders. And these founders are in the game and who has skin in the game, who are literally solving the world's biggest problems. I just realized till then who was thinking the product is all about tech has much more dimensions to it, which unlocks economics around the product, design, scalability, etc. These are the things that I directly have learned from the people who have made them. It was an amazing time that I had. Soon enough, I have picked up a project that sounds nothing less than a science fiction. A project that generates water out of thin air. Yes. It was always my dream to work for the DRDO because after all, we all love our nation and want to contribute in every way possible to the nation's army. So it was only about 15 different prototypes that I've built, which is a cube-sized machine, which sucks the air that we breathe, generates pure drinking water out of it, and gives out. I've built up prototypes ranging all the way from 15 ml per hour to 1.5 liters per hour, and scaled it up. And that day, I reached out to T-Hub again, asking for help to connect me to someone from the Department of Science and Technology at DRDO. Sure enough, I did again what I always believed would work, the old classic strategy, just show up. Except for this time it was DRDO, so I was stopped at the gate itself. So I had made sure to reach out DRDO with cold emails and a couple of warm introductions that came through T-Hub, got me in. I was in the Department of Life at DRDO headquarters. This was the that I had. My project was proposed to be deployed at the army bunkers right from Jaisalmer, which creates water out of thin air that helps army personnel not to carry the load of drinking water, but to generate wherever they are. This is where, now if I look back, it still puts me a smile. But if I have to pause for a second, and what truly helped me gain the journey that I had so far is surely the stories that I've heard. It's not just a story that I want to share about a kid who was fascinated by anything that moved, clicked, or made sound, but story that shaped this very own kid in the way that he thinks, he works, and he dreams. Today, I'd like to share 3 legendary stories of my life, for which in the last few years, not even a single day that I can count wherein I haven't recalled these individuals. So, any PUBG lovers here? Can I have a alert shout out? No PUBG? Call of Duty? BGMI? Yep. I would request you to recall every video game that you have played that involves shooting. Whenever you shoot, the recoil of the weapon, the tragedy of the bullet that dramatically goes and falls onto the ground, all of it looks really, really cool. But what's actually happening is under the hood, the game engine is calculating F equals to ma, a very fundamental equation by Newton, every second frame by frame. Probably the same that Newton had did in his blackboard in 1600s. It's this fascinating stories that help us that someone who was at least 400 years ago had developed a formula that holds true till today and continues to hold true till the universe exists. These are the stories that inspire me. Going ahead, it is one more story that I almost remember on a daily basis. How many of you here doesn't carry a mobile? I see no hands up. Sure enough, all of us are very much habituated to have a library, a studio, and a camera right in our pocket. But what if I tell you that all of our lives here have been single-handedly impacted by a humble 70-year-old from Japan? Yes. Allow me to introduce, and I'm proud to introduce, Sir Shuji Nakamura. Have you ever heard this name, Shuji Nakamura? Sounds like a Japanese character, right? Yes, he is the Jedi warrior that I'd like to show up. I'll take you back to 1962. It was the innovation of red LED. The industries were almost hopeful that the way we see light is going to change forever. But sure enough, it was the scientists' surprise that it wasn't going to change until the character enters Shuji Nakamura. 1962, we invent the red LED. Sure enough, in the same decade, we invent the green LED too. But to complete this complete spectrum and get white light, which pretty much allows us to create 16 million colors, a key component was missing, the blue LED. Back then, players like Sony, 3M, IBM, General Electric have their best minds working on blue LED, but no one could figure it out. Cut to a very small company who was manufacturing semiconductors was Shuji Nakamura. He was deployed. He took a gamble that give me $3 million in funding and I will make the blue LED. No one believed him. In fact, till then, he didn't have any research paper to his name because his company that he was working with prohibited to do so. Nonetheless, he didn't have a formal PhD nor a paper to his name, but determined to take on something that pretty much every company thought was impossible. Today, after 3 continuous years of research, without even a single day break, Shuji Nakamura invented the blue LED. It was nothing short of a miracle. The world awed at the innovation. And what kept me going, and in fact what made me even more curious about Shuji Nakamura, was he just didn't invent the blue LED, but even went on to invent the machine that mass produces blue LEDs, so that today we here can enjoy the bright screens that we have. He just didn't light up the blue LED, but lit up the 21st century. The way we look at LEDs changed since then. That is something that always inspires me of what we can achieve through relentless grit that pretty much the world believes that you can't do, but you can. Just in the end, but last but surely not the least, I have one more great story that I always feel inspired about. How many of you here had heard the term software engineering? Pretty much everyone, right? Software engineering, after all, is a part of an engineering discipline that we study. But let me take you back to 1960s, where a person, in fact, coined the term software engineering. It was 1960s. The space race was on. A country's reputation was always gauged by how far ahead they were in the cosmos than the medals and money that they had. And US was all in. He was the big player, and they wanted to make sure they win the space race by all means. And the great minds of NASA were working 24/7 around the clock only for one mission. That is to ensure they take a man onto the surface of the moon and, of course, bring them back safely. It was just 6 miles away from the moon surface that the Apollo 11 mission lunar was landing, and there was a major failure. The radars show up and a computer overload, and it was, if it had not been a woman named Margaret Hamilton, the mission would have been aborted. Margaret Hamilton, famously popularly known for the term software engineering, had handwritten the code of the entire lunar. 6 minutes away from landing, the computer shows up an error, which pretty much was close enough to abort the machine. It was Margaret Hamilton's piece of code that had basically overlooked the error that the computer had produced and ensured to prioritize landing as the top priority and made a safe landing. So it humbles you to know that the story of a man that we know who had stepped onto the moon for the first time was single-handedly helped by a woman's piece of code that landed him safely and brought him back. So the next time, whenever you have an idea, just think that it might just come from your love towards anything that moved, clicked, or made sound, or something much more fundamental that we all always needs to obey, the universe obey of classical physics, or a far sight from a young woman who not only just developed the code in the most important manned machine that history has ever seen, she did it all while raising a young daughter that often come to the lab. These are the stories that echo tomorrow, and I present you these great stories. Thank you.